Okay, well, since it is 3 o'clock and we don't have officers at this point, I have to call the meeting to order. So I'll ask myself for roll call. Harry Courtwright.
Present.
Ashley Dunphy has resigned, but we haven't received official word, so we kept her on the agenda, but she's not here. David Kelly.
Here.
Ed McBride.
Present.
And Kathy Wermick.
Wermick. Present.
I am sorry.
That's okay. That's better start than most people do.
Okay. Okay. What?
That part is like it's
Yeah.
word.
Mm. Okay, thank you. So the agenda was posted on or before January 17th. And now we have, I guess, well, at some point I will stop running this meeting because it's not really my meeting to run. We have some minutes to approve. So we have the October 25th. And then we have just basically, we had a lack of quorum for November 15th and December 20th. So I made a little minutes for those. So
I would move approval of the minutes as
Okay.
submitted.
Right, second.
And I did?
Abstain.
No, I said it. Okay. Oh, and then, okay, you're going to abstain?
Yeah, is a quorum. Yeah, I have to.
Quorum is 3.
Well, I don't mind voting for it because actually I was president and knowing that these minutes were here.
That's true. Thank you. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then, so 3-0 and, KM abstain. Thank you. KW, sorry. Do we have any added starters? Seeing none?
None.
I'll move on to public comments. So public comments this time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Library Board of Trustees on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter within jurisdiction of the city. Although the Library Board of Trustees values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes are assigned to each speaker. So we do have guests. Do any of you want to speak at this time? Okay. So, next. Well, I guess, do we have a treasurer, technically? Treasurer's report? No?
I don't think so since the last time we met.
I mean,
Because Linda
I
was the
did.
treasurer, right?
Yeah, but I
Harry-
said I
Harry
would look
stepped
at the
in.
report, and I didn't have any problem with the report as it was presented to us.
does anyone else have any comments about the financial reports or statistics? We'll just move ahead. You okay with that? And then a report from Friends of the Palm Springs Library Liaison, which no one's here. We could give a report on the Friends if we want. Julie, do you have anything you want to say about the Friends?
Sure.
Okay. Julie Warren will give the Friends report.
Can
The
you
Friends,
just introduce
Oh,
staff?
sorry. Oh, well, hello, welcome. Yes, sorry.
No.
Yes, this is Julie Warren. She is our Library Services and Public Relations Manager. And Julie, you can tell them about what you do. And then Lisa Brock is our Library Operations and Collection Manager. So, Julie, tell them a little bit about yourself.
about me?
Yes.
Oh, it's okay. I just didn't know your name.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
You don't have nameplates. You should have nameplates. Next time, order nameplates.
All right.
And then let's welcome our new board members too. Before we go on with the Friends, let's pause for a second and we'll start with David Kelly. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is David Kelly, and I'm grateful to be here. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, I've been in Palm Springs now for 4 years. I live over by the Hockwitz Creek Golf neighborhood in it. And this is not my first time at the rodeo for public service. I was, when I was living in Los Angeles before I came to Palm Springs, I was a commissioner on the Los Angeles County Commission on HIV for 4 years. And currently, I'm also the facilitator for the Friends of the Palm Springs Library Book Club.
Excellent. Okay, Kathy. Just press the button and then it should turn green and
Okay.
then
I should know how to use these.
that's good.
Kathy Wermick. I live in Ascena on the other side of the airport. I've lived here for 9 years. Just finished 6.5 years on the Planning Commission, chairing it for the last 1.5 years. Active recently in the district mapping campaign, co-chaired the Citizens Action Committee on that. Spent 6 years on the Planning Commission in Santa Monica and ran several public nonprofits in my professional background. So, and I read.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now Julie, go ahead and tell us about the Friends.
Absolutely, happy to do that. The Friends have a busy schedule coming up. One of the things that they have been doing for the last few years are participating in Modernism Week. This year they have an unprecedented 4 events that they're doing. They're doing 2 lectures and 2 house tours. Both of the lectures will be at the library. The dates for the lectures are on Saturday, February 16th. Alan Hess will be there lecturing. And unfortunately, that event has been sold out. So I don't want to encourage you to buy tickets because there's none available. But they do have another lecture on Friday, the 22nd of February, featuring Professor Martin Schwartz. And he's going to be talking about postmodernism versus modernism architecture. And that's on the 22nd, and there's still tickets available. There's 2 house tours. One is on February 14th, and that's going to be showcasing a house in Sunmore, a neighborhood, about how it went green and still maintained its modern aesthetic. And so the owner's going to be there and talking about all the different things, showing the people on the tour the different things that he employed there to make the house green. And then on the 19th of February, they're going to be touring a home by architect Hal Lacey. So the tickets for all of those events are still available. The Friends also are participating in the 1 PS Picnic in March. That's March 23rd. And then also in March, they have their annual meeting on Sunday, March 10th. And that's for members only. Of course, you can always join and become a member. And this year's annual event is going to be held at the former Truman Capote House here in Palm Springs that was recently renovated. So they have lots of activities and things going on. Thank you.
Excellent. And report from Library Foundation Liaison.
Go ahead.
The Library Foundation had a meeting recently and elected new officers. Excuse me, our president is David Sidley. I can pronounce your name, but I can't pronounce his name. He's the president. The vice president is Ed. I'm the secretary, and that gentleman there, we all know Craig, is the treasurer.
Thank you. Okay.
Can I just ask what you're doing in the way of fundraising?
The foundation, we just lost 2 of our officers, so we've been sort of in abeyance. And part of it is we're waiting till the strategic plan is finished, because that will help give us some direction as to where we should do about major fundraising, either renovation of the building, building a new building someplace else, whatever. So we're working on getting organized to do major fundraising, but we're not doing anything till we have some direction.
I would just add to that we are looking for people that want to join the foundation.
Yes.
So if you know of anyone who might be passionate about libraries and especially the work we've got coming ahead, we definitely are looking for people to come join us.
Thank you. Okay, so at this time we will go into our annual meeting. As long as you're all okay with this, we're good? We're ready? Okay, so we're going to do our annual meeting so that we can get some officers, so that I don't have to continue holding this meeting. So then let's do report by nominating committee, Courtwright and McBride.
I've been designated to give the report. We are recommending that Ed McBride be elected by the board as president. He will appoint a president pro tem, although we had discussed my being in that position, but we'll see what Ed wants to do. And guess who gets to be treasurer? Please, David. It's a good way to find out about the foundation, or the trust fund, and how it works. So we thought you'd be a good person for that. And that's our report.
Okay, so then, how does that work? Then do I just take a vote?
Take a vote.
Okay, so then for the office of president, that would be for Ed McBride. All those in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. Any opposed? No. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Here's the,
She passed the gavel.
I'll give you the remote.
I don't know what to do with that, but.
You just lay it in front of you.
So in talking in the nominating committee, as Harry mentioned, I'd like to appoint Harry as president pro tem for the continuity that we need, since we've lost so many people in the last few months, and so we have so much ahead of us, if that's okay. Do we need to vote on that?
No, you
Okay.
just declare it so.
All right. We talked about the position of treasurer. Do you accept?
Yes, I'll accept. Thank you.
Oh, you do, actually, you elect the treasurer.
Okay, so,
according to the-
I'll accept the nomination.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Unanimous? Here's where the fun part begins for our new colleagues, because the committees you will find for this particular body really are where everything happens and the hard work really exists. So we went through last year a few things that have pushed us probably a little further ahead than we were in previous years, where we revisited our bylaws and made sure the bylaws were pretty good in shape, and especially anticipating the strategic planning process. However, we still have a ways to go. So these committees are just pretty critical, and Harry and I have probably served on all of these committees at some point. And I would also add that they're enjoyable. It's a good chance to work with staff and to really hear what's going on in the library. We changed the bylaws. That's why I was asking for a copy, because I couldn't have it to memory. But we actually say in the bylaws that the standing committees may consist of, because there's a small group of us, and we felt like at this particular time at our annual meeting, we talk about what these committees have done or what they should do, and as a group kind of decide, do we really need to have one of those this year? Maybe we don't. Maybe there's not a priority. Why add more work if we really don't need to have more work? I think you guys would agree with that. So what I'd like to do is maybe just have a discussion, especially with staff, and talking about the importance of the standing committees and what they might see ahead for us. Then we can go into the ad hoc committees where really a lot of work exists. Now, you should also know that there's one other committee that is always in place, and that's the nominating committee. So it's part of the bylaws, and it will stand that way as well. So if we could just take a few minutes, and I'm going to look to Jeannie to kind of help us to describe for us and give us some history as to why in the past we've had an advocacy budget, buildings, and then of course policies, bylaws.
Sure. And these are in your bylaws that you do have to have those. That's why they're standing committees. So the advocacy committee, it's really important to help us speak to our community about what's going on at the library, things that we might need help with getting passed through city council, or just getting the public's buy-in on different things. So advocacy is always important. It's always great to have people who are just, we need somebody to go to city council. Okay, advocacy, sure. Anybody could go and speak at city council or go and speak at different things, but that's advocating for us is helpful, because sometimes I can't do that because I am an employee of the city, so I can't get up and give public comment. like you could as citizens and trustees. So that's always helpful. And feel free to add to this if.
Can I add
Yeah,
that?
please do.
I think in the past, what we've had is someone has said, I'll take this on, but we're all on call. So it's not like you have to do this by yourself. It's designating someone that's always in tune with the current issues that's going on with the library and the community. And if a certain topic comes up, that person could say, I need everybody there. We could do a call out to everybody, which we have done. Or can I get one or two of you to come join me to get in front of city council or talk to city council? So just have an idea that this isn't a standalone. It's really kind of directing all of us in what we need to do around advocacy.
And I know recently there have been town hall meetings, and those are really
Correct.
helpful. They said, oh, wow, somebody from the library showed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very supportive. You know, we have lots of community members who are supportive and interested in what happens at our library. The budget standing committee, now the budget, we have two aspects of the budget. We have our library operating budget, and then we have the trust fund budget. And so the library operating budget, you all get to weigh in and provide suggestions and input for that, although that is approved by city council. It's really their area that they get to manage. But you do get to provide input on that. And then for the trust fund budget, you can choose to spend some of that money on certain special projects that we have going on. So we talk, and we usually have a meeting with the budget subcommittee and myself, and we go over what we as staff feel would like to do, and then the budget subcommittee brings that back to the full board of the trustees, and then you get to talk and discuss and then vote on those things. Anything else on that one?
I guess fortunately, unfortunately, David, usually the treasurer is chair of that committee.
Really?
You didn't guess that.
Surprise, surprise.
And I will say in the past, the treasurer has selected one of us to come along with them for the ride. So you're welcome to do that. And I would just ask that you, of course, you would chair that. It's, there is a time of year where you're going to work closely around budget prep so that you understand the budget, and then you're going to brief the advocacy person, because we're going to have to go and stand up and talk about that in front of the city council, most commonly if we're asking for something. Like
And
last
it's
year we
budget
asked.
time right now.
And last year we asked for the part-time staff person that you guys got approved, so it does mean a lot. And if you know that budget and what's needed, you can call upon any of us to be on that with you and help you around that. It's just sharing the responsibility, so, sorry. It's not a bad committee. I've served on it.
The buildings,
You're gonna speak to me again.
the building standing committee, it's about our library buildings and just facility issues. So if we get a new library or a renovation, that would be our buildings group that would get to attend all of those meetings with the city council subcommittee or planners or developers or whatnot. So that one has the potential to have really not a lot happen, but then sometimes it has the potential to have a lot happen.
It's been a sleepy committee the last year, but I have a feeling based on what will happen on Tuesday, it's going to become probably the busy committee starting soon.
Yeah, so if you're interested in buildings and renovations or new libraries and all of that, that's where that group is. Policies and bylaws, we as a staff try not to bombard you with new policies all the time. We really try to keep it to once a year if we can and bring everything at once and go over that. And the bylaws are part of that because that helps keep you all organized. We just went through a big bylaws rehash in
Yeah.
so it would be hopeful that we wouldn't have any changes, or very few changes if we need to. So, but that, the policies, that would be the subcommittee that we would call on if we need to change any policies. And last year,
We do.
you just got a copy with the binder clip of the final, we forgot to give that to you. That was approved back in July, and that was when we went fine-free. And so that was a big policy change that we did, and you all set the policies for the library in coordination with city council. It's really it's kind of tricky, but you do help us approve our policies, and you have to help us defend them too. And so when we have people who are upset that they have violated a policy and we've done whatever necessary steps that are necessary, like ban them or charge them fines or whatnot, fees if their item goes lost, then we need your help defending our policies. So that's that. But you have the whole board. So there's that. And then anything else on that?
Yeah, where I think this committee last year, we as a group said this is a really critical committee to get ready for the strategic planning process, and we wanted to scrub bylaws, and we did some major policies with no fines. I think this committee might take a little bit of a less upfront, as I think this
Yeah,
coming year.
I don't think we're going to have
Kind of taking
much.
care of most of the major things, unless we get into the bylaws and we go, oops, we didn't think about something. But I think we've kind of scrubbed that one. And the bylaws, by the way, was reviewed extensively by the city and the city attorney to make sure that we had visited all of the things that had kind of cropped up last year. We've now kind of forgotten where, the authority of this board and the things that we are responsible for. So I think we've attached that.
And they checked it to make sure you weren't contradicting yourself in
Correct.
different sections. Now, ad hoc, they do come up, and like Ed was saying, there are different categories that come up from time to time. The foundation liaisons, at the time, right now it's Ed and Harry, and so you can only have 2 liaisons for that group, because if you have 3, then it's a quorum, and you can't do that because of the Brown Act. The Friends liaison, we typically have 1 person that goes to the Friends meeting, and then the Friends usually send someone here. And that way, the groups all know what's going on with each other, and the trustees can report to the Friends what's happening from the trustees side, and then the Friends, everybody learns what's going on. So we usually have 1. Oh, thank you. The Friends of the Library meet the second Tuesday at 2 p.m. at the library. So that is also a concern. If you can't do that date and time, I wouldn't recommend being the liaison. Right now, we have a literacy subcommittee. It's very inactive at this time, but there was some interest in looking at literacy and literacy services and whatnot.
Do you think this topic may come up on Tuesday once we pull
It
members of the
will.
community together? I think it
It
might.
will, and
It
then
will.
Yeah.
it will.
I just had people approach me about it already.
Yeah. I think this might become another active subcommittee or ad hoc committee.
Yeah, and then strategic plan. Well, that one may just take care of itself, because we're having our strategic plan on Tuesday, and Ed and Linda were right? Ed and Linda, or Ed and Ashley? I don't know, but Ed and thank you.
Yeah.
Ed and Ashley were the liaisons for the strategic plan, but so you may still want to keep somebody until the strategic plan is complete.
Okay.
And then the Wellwood, this one's active right now. Wellwood, we've got a Wellwood patio meeting on Monday. So we didn't, but you all should talk about that one to decide who's going, because I know right now
That's a pretty
it's
critical.
Ed and
Is
Harry.
that's not for a report, correct? Yes, it is. Is it right?
in the small conference room next door.
Yeah.
It's a city council subcommittee meeting.
Now,
Although that room's gonna be tight.
we were pretty ambitious in the bylaw revision, where we said that at this particular meeting, assuming that the president-elect knew that that was coming, that person was to come to this meeting and make assignments. I feel that's kind of unfair, because for lots of reasons, and I want you guys to think about these and let's talk. Is there something that just jumps out to you that's of interest to you that you would like to be in, versus me name anyone at this particular time, if that's okay with you all? I have some ideas, but that I would like to talk to at least one of you about, based on but I think maybe going through our reports today and hearing about the status on all of these, and then I can reach out to you guys in the coming days, and even see you hopefully on Tuesday, and maybe, you can say, I really am drawn to serving on that particular committee. Is that okay with the trustees? Okay.
Are we going to discuss this at all?
Oh, can I have a question?
Yes. Yeah, it's on the
Because, it's on the agenda?
it's on the
Okay.
agenda.
Yes, and so then, one moment, please. And then are Ed and Harry going to the Wellwood meeting next week?
I'm planning on being there.
Yeah, I mean, how many can be there?
Two.
Two?
Because that was something
Are
that
you
we did
gonna
have
be there,
scheduled.
David? Because you're on that committee.
No. No, this is a city council subcommittee meeting, so.
sorry.
No, it's not at that, it's at the money level.
Well, if we can speak freely, and I guess I can now that I'm chair of this is the one committee where I was actually thinking of you, Kathy, to be on this committee.
I went to see Wellwood today before I came here.
Um,
So I've got a lot of thoughts.
And I think you have the background and expertise that can help us with this project, and keeping it on track and making sure that it happens in our lifetime,
And within
if that's
budget.
all possible.
And within budget.
And within budget. So I think we can talk about that, but if you would like to take my place and you and Harry attend that, can you attend that meeting on Monday?
I'd have to know what time it is, but
Well, it's at 3:00. I was just wondering, because you know the whole process of what all we've done, that I was thinking that you should continue on that, to go to that meeting,
Then-
but,
I can drop out.
Are you sure?
Sure, no problem.
It's not like you're going anywhere, but what time? 3:00? Can
3
you,
o'clock.
Monday at 3:00? Okay.
Fine.
okay.
And we're getting a
Well, either one,
report.
I just,
We can always change it in the future, and we're getting a report here on it anyway, so we'll have some ideas about what's going on, right?
I will tell you what I know. Kathy, okay. Okay. And then, go ahead, David, thank you. Do you have a question?
No, actually, it was about Wellwood, and it's all been answered, so thank you.
Okay, good. So, you're
Okay.
postponing the rest of the decisions until later?
Unless there's something on here that you guys are,
Obviously,
Passionate about right now.
I'm interested in buildings.
okay,
I'm a retired librarian, and in my last job, which was in Maricopa County in Phoenix, while I was there 12 years, we built or renovated 17 libraries. So I have a real background in building new buildings and in renovations, so.
I'd probably have an interest in that too, but I don't need to displace anybody who's been working on it.
no, that'd be
Two of
great,
us can do it.
great. David, anything jump out at you?
Well, budget, obviously.
And you can draft someone to, of course, be with you.
Yeah, that's okay. Advocacy, policy, bylaws are interesting. I'm already on the Friends of the Palm Springs Library book club. If you need a Friends liaison, I'd be happy to do that.
I think advocacy makes sense if you're working with the budget to maybe help us there as well. And as we described, this is a committee where you would say, these are our priorities. I need you guys to come and support us and be ready to testify or be an advocate for us, so if that's okay. I don't want to load you up too much, so.
And I can help you, not necessarily in a committee, but if you need people going to council.
Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then,
So,
Ed, did you want to,
but on
you
the-
and Harry stay on the foundation?
Well,
Right,
I've been
or-
elected an officer,
And I am too.
so
It doesn't matter, does it?
But then we'd have more than two if someone else.
No, you just have the two.
Just us, okay.
Yeah.
You could probably also have somebody, as long as you're not functioning as this board, since you're an officer of that board.
Yeah, we might want to.
I used to be treasurer of the foundation board, but the city felt that was a conflict because I was on this board, and this board loaned $100,000 to the foundation to get started.
You might have,
So,
you may still have
So-
issues.
I am no longer treasurer.
You're not, oh, okay. Have
No
you
longer
confirmed with the city that you can be an officer on that board and also on this board?
Yes, because I've been in another
Okay.
office, a different office.
So that leaves us with policies, the Friends liaison, and literacy. Let me ask you in
You
the
got David
history.
on Friends Liaison,
Oh, Friends? Okay, since you're there.
and you would David on policies and bylaws. Too.
Well, now you're loading me up.
Yeah. That's what,
Well, let's figure out how many we need right now. Do we need policies and bylaws
I don't
right
think
now?
so.
I don't think
I don't
so
think so.
either.
And we're gonna hopefully
You
get a
can
new
make it-
member.
if we need it,
That's
we'll
true.
call
You
it.
can make it ad hoc
You
if
cannot.
we need it.
It's according to your bylaws, it has to be a standing committee.
Well, if you want to put me on it and then we'll do it, not have any
Uh,
meetings, that's fine.
I'll tell you what, I'll put me down since I was on the bylaws committee.
Yeah,
I'll-
there you go.
I've always stuck on bylaws committee, so I'll stay on there. And if I need help, trust me, I will call upon you guys. Literacy, Kathy, would you be interested?
I might be. I know other people who are. I'm just not sure I'm the right person to spearhead that.
And we could wait on that one. That one's,
See what happens on Tuesday?
Sure, yeah.
and like you said, yes, it is ad hoc, but like you said, there's a fifth person that could come.
That's true.
Coming.
And be on the.
All right, so I think then we're good for now.
Just a question, the Friends meeting, the next one is the second Tuesday, 2 PM in the library, right?
Yes. Double check. Okay, February 12th, 2 PM. I have a question, and let's check our notes on, did you say David is on policies and bylaws or not?
Just me.
Just Ed, okay. I just wanted to double check, because I had written that down.
Yep.
Okay.
Harry and Kathy on buildings, David budget, David advocacy, Ed and Harry foundation, David friends. I'll still hold the strategic plan for now.
Okay. Did you have Kathy on advocacy too? Because she said she could.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And then Kathy on Wellwood,
And you?
yes.
Okay. Okay. Good job.
All right. Now the work begins, right?
Next. Okay, then do you adjourn the annual meeting and go back to the regular meeting?
So let's adjourn the annual meeting, and we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is legislative action, and we'll start with our guest from Measure J Commission.
So,
Is that David?
David and Michael. Yeah, I'll do it. You all come on up.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. My name's David Gray, and this is Michael Johnson, and we are the subcommittee from Measure J for the library. And I guess I'll just give a little background from my perspective, and you can join in, but why we're even here. As most of you probably know, Measure J is a tax that was approved by the voters in Palm Springs to do capital projects. And over the past several fiscal years, we have done lots of different projects. And the library, through the city, has asked for some of those funds. Some of the projects that the library has used those funds for are the Wellwood, computers at the library, various, perhaps furniture, I don't remember, but a few other things came out of Measure J funds. However, we have some outstanding balances on our books, and so the city is asking us to go back and prioritize projects that were sort of approved but really haven't moved anywhere. And that's kind of where Michael kind of meets with the city council to try to say, well, this is Measure J's priorities now, and they kind of say, well, you know, this project was approved in 2013. How come, you know, do you still want this as a priority? So with that in mind, that's one of the things that we thought we would come and ask about. There are two particular line items that were approved that are sort of sitting there and committed to the library, but we haven't seen the library using them. And for those most of you know, I served as a trustee of the library from about 2009 to 2015, so I may have voted on these projects in the beginning. I think the other reason we are here is more of a general description, general question, but when this measure was passed by the voters, the library was part of that vote, and so the city is concerned that, maybe that's not really happening. David Reddy, who's city manager, came to Measure J and said, we're going to have, we have a lot of projects on the docket, maybe $30 million worth of projects. We aren't going to get those all done. But besides that, looming in the background, sort of as the elephant in the room, is this library project that is sort of unknown. And he sort of said to us, well, this is not a project that you're going to be able to vote $2 million or $3 million and have it done. So it's going to need to go over several fiscal years, and what does Measure J want to do about that, and how are we going to begin to put that in the budgetary process? Well, when we said that, then everyone on Measure J said, well, I think we better go meet with the board and find out what they want. And sort of like when I sat on this board, it was sort of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, Do you have a budget of let's say $15 or $20 million to do whatever you're going to do, renovate this building or build a new building, and then say, where do we have those funds? We have some trust funds, we have foundation funds, maybe have friends funds, that equals X amount of money. We will ask Measure J for X amount of money, and then the rest we might have to raise. Well, I don't know that we've ever really done that, and I know that Tuesday you're having a library strategic plan, and I'm very happy that I'm going to be part of that, so I will be there too. But I think that that's kind of the big picture will be, and maybe we will need to have another meeting after that strategic plan to kind of figure out what that's going to be. But I think Measure J wants direction from the trustees as to what the big project is. So going back to the specific two projects, library planning money to sort of begin to look at either renovating this building, having an architect's schematic plan, etc. Measure J voted $125,294. I don't know why 294, but whatever. And that money is still sitting there. So there's $125,294 budgeted for library planning that is still sitting there. Now, that's not strategic planning, but this would be capital project planning. So this would, and I know that the library hired a architectural firm several years ago, maybe 4 or 5 now, and paid $100,000 out of their own trust fund money to do a plan. But that plan's still sitting there, I guess. The second thing that was approved was some idea that the library was going to do a phase 1 project to do infrastructure on this building. And so approximately $500,000, $498,520 was approved out of Measure J. Out of that, there was a little change of something. I'm not sure what was charged to that, but we still have about $498,000. It's $497,789 sitting in that account. So you take those two together, and it's over $500,000. It's just sitting there, and so we obviously need to. We did tell City Council, just keep it there, but I don't think we can just say keep it there for 3 more years. So that's kind of why we're here, and that's sort of my introduction. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think you got it all pretty well set up. It's actually about $630,000 that we have.
If you look at what an architect's going to cost, that money should be transferred to the library foundation for planning purposes. you're never, it could be used for improvements in the existing library, or it would be funds to plan something new, but the whole amount is probably what you need for any kind of decent planning. That's
Well,
just me speaking as a
Yes,
person who's done this.
The city would not give any money to the foundation, but the city would contribute this money to whatever it is, firm, etc. Obviously, as you understand, there are two processes, as I would imagine. The Board of Trustees would need to look at these funds again and re-vote how you want us to spend those funds. But none of these funds would be spent without City Council approval or Measure J approval. So what I'm just saying is that they have already gone through some process and they were earmarked for those two things. If you wish us to change that, then we would need direction, but right now, those two accounts exist, and there's a little over 100 and something for planning and almost $500,000 for some sort of actual infrastructure work.
I know I spoke up quickly and I'm absolutely brand new, but just looking at that, this group will never be able to go through their strategic planning purpose without those funds set aside.
So I guess I have a point of clarification and maybe education for myself. So on Tuesday, we do know on the agenda, we will be discussing at least 4 options going forward for some sort of a facility for the library. Assuming that one of those that we put forward is a new facility of some kind, we know that then we have to kick in the fundraising around the foundation. The foundation's waiting for those directions. I'm assuming at that point, then we would go to you guys for this funding and say, we need this funds to be set aside for this part of this project and start that process. How long would that take, I guess, is part of my question. If we were to ask for this funds to be put aside for architectural planning or, space planning, or I don't know what it might be.
Yeah, I mean, basically what I think, there's two things, and I think that what I think Measure J would like from you is what is happening with these two accounts, and how do you wish to use those accounts, change those accounts, whatever you want to do, but we need direction from the board because that's where these requests came from. And so we're coming back to you and saying, you didn't use them, so do you want to continue? Second, from your description, so you come forth from that meeting and you find out, okay, we're going to build a new library, and ballpark figure that building's going to cost us $22 million, okay? Then you would, as a board, once again, meet and figure out, well, we have X amount of funds on hand. We might be able to raise X amount of dollars through the general public or grants or whatever, and we have a deficit of $12.5 million. I'm just making, these are just out of the air, okay? So you say, well, we need $12.5 million. That's when you would come to Measure J through the city. So you would have Jeannie or David ready. He's looking for direction. We're all looking for direction. And then you would come and say, the library is going to need $12.5 million, and that project we anticipate to be finished in 5 years. So in 5 years, we could then budget $12.5 million for over 5 fiscal years. But we can't come up with $12.5 million in 1 fiscal year, and you can't build a building in 1 fiscal year. So that's how it would need to go. But you need to know what the city is willing to commit to, and the city's not going to commit to anything except through Measure J. So you would need to come to us. But I think you have to keep in mind that the city is already saying, well, you already have $600,000 we've committed. You can figure out how you want to spend it. And now what do we need to add to that?
So following that explanation, I guess my follow-up question would be, if that number, if we say 12 million is what our deficit is that assuming that Prop J would, oh, sure, or would they put that through their process and say, sorry, we can only commit to 10 million of this project? Would that happen, or based on your experience?
Okay, well, we would go through our process. We go through an unfunded capital projects, but we sit there and we work with David Reddy and staff to do that. And so we know this is a major priority, and we know that we need to come up with funds to help move this forward, especially since we don't know what's happening with the College of the Desert, et cetera. And so we would go through our process, and then we would make a recommendation to the city council at our meeting, and then the city council will take them into consideration, and they would make the final decision. What we are is a recommending. So that's how it would work, yes.
Yes, and past experience would be, so, as an example, the Wellwood was given X amount of dollars. Measure J voted that money. The city approved that. The project got underway, as with anything, and there were problems and overruns. They had to go back to Measure J and say, we need a little bit more money. So, same thing with the downtown park. The Measure J has already voted a certain amount of money for the park. Now we are really get to the point where we're going to break ground and we know what the park's going to cost. It's not just a pie in the sky. So now we know it's overrun. So they've come back to figure out, can Measure J come up with some more money by doing something else? So yes, it would be the same thing with the library, but that's not going to happen. You know, you're not going to need to ask us for more money. I mean, I think you try to come up with a cost estimate, and that's what you ask for first. Once you got the project shovel ready, or you go out to bid, well, then that's when crunch comes to push, and it might be you have to, scale back on furnishings. I don't know where you cut, but that's how it works.
So I just want to clarify a couple of points. One was that you had just said that Measure J is going to be, in the city council's view, the sole source of library financing beyond if we had a deficit.
No, it's the sole city source of funding.
Well, that's why I referenced the city council. So
yeah. There's no capital project money other than Measure J money. The operating budget of the city is for other things, but it's not for capital.
Okay, so then the follow-up to that is then, since we're about to have this meeting on Tuesday, and it probably would take more time than just Tuesday to come up with some kind of estimate of what deficit, if any, there's going to be. And forgive me for not knowing too much about how much is collected by Measure J on an annual basis, but is there a way to actually project 5 years forward what actually has not been earmarked for projects like libraries, so that when we can realistically think that perhaps on a 5-year basis that there is $12 million in Measure J money that could be allocated to a library, or is everything spoken for the next 5 years?
Okay, well, not everything is spoken for the next 5 years, but we only have so much money each year, and that's what David was talking about earlier, is we could do this incrementally. We're not going to be able to hand $12 million over in a year, and you don't need $12 million in a year. But what we would do is budget accordingly. You say you've got a 5-year plan to do whatever you decide to do. We would put $2 million aside for 1 year, then the next year, and the next year. But as you know, the city council has to reapprove on a yearly basis. Even though we do a 5-year project, somewhere down the line, they could stop and say, you know what, we don't want to do this, and that would be the end of that. That's not going to happen with the library, but I just wanted to be, upfront with you on that. So, yes, we do have the funds. We've brought in almost $90 million on this tax. We spend $30 million a year on this tax. We have an $8 million budget this year to spend money right now that we're looking at unfunded capital projects starting next month. It's one of the reasons why we wanted to have this meeting with you, to make sure that we get this on the list. because nothing can be considered if it's not in the staff list, so.
Yeah, to answer your, so as an example, roads are budgeted at about 3 million a year to redo roads. Well, we know that that 3 million doesn't do every road in Palm Springs, but over a course of 10 years, we'll probably do all or most of the roads within Palm Springs. So, yes, then they get to start over. But when the bids come in and the money is actually spent, then it's not kind of like a budget, future budget. What it really is here's the actual amount that we have this year, that we spent this year, and okay, well, we didn't quite spend all of it, so now we're going to roll that money over into next year, so we might have 3.2 million, and hopefully so that's how it would work.
Really, just a question, because I know you were fully committed to the park. How many years in advance is that commitment, and when would you have money for the library? If the library were able to, because when you're financing something, you can't do a library in pieces. You would have to get at least funding that you would anticipate you would repay over the time period that you're paying the money. So how far out are you committed? Because I was on the park committee for a couple of years. And I know that was a forward commitment. Is that all of your money for next year, or?
No, we've allocated $1 million a year for the next 3 years. We're looking at moving some other money around that we have found out we do not have to make the commitment for. That we're hoping to get more money, another $2 million actually for that. They need $3.5 million more than they originally budgeted.
I'm sure.
And so we do need to come up with that money. The park is critical, but that's totally separate from this. It does not stop us from putting $2 million in the 2020 budget for the library if it's so deemed necessary. If you can move that quickly, even.
So the decisions, Jeannie, here are new building versus improving the existing building, correct? And
Right.
we have a 5-year-old estimate on what it would take to improve the existing building.
Right, yes, we do.
And it might not, it might not currently encompass the programming needs that you would have. I don't know that it
Right.
does. Just having looked at it, there's clearly programming needs in terms of an auditorium or
Right.
something in the existing library.
Right, and our estimates on escalation for that project is about 25% over the prices, if you've seen any of that. Those prices at the 2013 level, just add 25% to that.
Or more.
Just to get us up to today and not for 3 years in the future when it probably will
Concrete
start.
and wood and everything has gone up.
Steel. So, yeah. But yeah, we're going to talk about that at the strategic plan, and this is the year where we have to decide.
I don't know if this is just a philosophical question or comment, but what was the last major city facility that was built? I mean,
Well, there's a lot of them that are going on. They're redoing a fire station right now. Right. The police department's had stuff done. So there have been projects. The Wellwood obviously is a project. So yeah, there's lots of physical buildings, but capital projects aren't just buildings. So you know, there's streets, there's safety improvements, there's crosswalks, there's all kinds of things. So that come out of this.
I mean, it's my experience that if the option comes up that we want a new library, we're talking 25 million. I can't imagine that project would be anything, less than that if you want to be true. So I guess my point, are those the kind of projects that we're not going to have people look at us like we've lost our mind when we come and ask for that kind of funding?
They might. I can be honest with you. If we do something like that, all the funds won't come from Measure J. Right. You will have to go to an outside source. It just is not feasible.
And we're prepared for that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that you probably already know that this is a city building, so vacating this building means that the city still owns this building. So the city needs to figure, so whether or not you want a new building or whether you remodel this building, the city council may have some thoughts that, we have, not to talk about it, but the Plaza Theater is another big capital project. It's a city-owned building, and it sat there empty. So the city doesn't really want to take on a lot of empty buildings. So that has to be part of the thought process. And so I don't know what the city council's thoughts are on that, but I can imagine that if it's a difference of, 15 or $20 million to go one way or the other, they may not move that way. So I don't know, but I guess what I would suggest now, obviously you can't make any decisions today, is that if we could come back in 3 months, and in 3 months' time, if we could have direction on these 2 accounts that are sitting here as to how you wish to rename those accounts, merge those accounts, use that money, or tell us you want it to be part of a new request, then that's fine too. But we need to have direction to City Council on what to do with the $600,000, because if we don't get that direction, then that money's going to be rolled into the city park or the Plaza Theater or some other project.
And the other question, and I know it was earmarked for different things, but if there are other needs for that money now or uses for it that are capital projects, is that something that you can look at just in,
We can't do that without your direction. At
But
this
if you
point,
had our direction.
Yes.
And there were other capital
Yes.
projects that are,
Well, they have to be library capital projects, yeah.
I'm not,
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about building the bathrooms in the park.
Although that's.
Yes, you could tell us however you want it to be used.
And that's really the question, because if that money is sitting there and Jeannie has things that she needs to do right now, it might be good to put some of that money to use. So the question is that something we can bring back to you?
The library infrastructure, that's the title of it, so it's kind of a wide open, you're not limited by very much
So
because of that.
that's also something else, because even if plans are made, it's several years away, and there may be things that you need.
Right, like, just off the top of my head, the J.C. Fry building needs a huge renovation, but it's a small building. It's a tiny
Right.
building, and it's just a
And
rectangular.
your roof
block.
needs to stop leaking.
The roof is okay, except for the skylights, and they can't get on the roof right now and fix skylights
Right.
because they have a.
No, but I'm
an
just
issue, but-
thinking,
So
there's
that's
some
just a,
small
that's a minor,
things,
that's a
and-
minor thing, but yeah,
and-
that, and then the Wellwood patio.
And, well, the Wellwood actually needs a handicapped accessible bathroom too. Probably more important than the patio.
They wouldn't do that, it wouldn't fit. The class, that they decided when they did the renovation that it wouldn't have a public bathroom because it couldn't fit within the space. So-
That's a bad decision. But anyway, that's something we can look at and talk about.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great decision.
One more question and we can move on here, but
Yeah.
we're all passionate about this library, and I know how much you are, Dave, because you've been a part of this. And now in your role in Prop J, you'll be there on Tuesday, you'll hear the discussion, you'll hear the conversation. Can we look to you to say, guys, if I were you, this is what I would do, based on you knowing both sides of this situation? Or can we rely upon you to, you're going to be there, I know you won't be quiet, but I mean, I think we look for people like you who know the story to say, if our plan ahead is this, then I would recommend that you guys consider doing this. And I think Kathy's point is well taken. There might be some immediate needs we have to address. But, I think that we definitely are prepared to tell you what we'd like to do with it. This is your second visit that I remember. There are not going to be many more. And so I guess, how do we together maybe help us come up with what's a good solution for this?
Well, I think one thing could be that your building subcommittee could meet with Michael and I. Basically, we are the liaisons from Measure J. So obviously, Measure J cannot all come because of Brown Act. That's not how we can operate. So, but we could have a smaller meeting between the subcommittee and you can give us some direction. Now, we will do everything we can to convince Measure J, I guess, of your position. But obviously, Measure J is its own committee, and whether or not they would, you know, if okay, yes, you mentioned the Fry building, but maybe people on Measure J say, oh, well, that's not really a priority to us, and so we're not going to vote for that. So I don't know, but yes, that's how we would, I think that would be the best way to proceed rather than, but I do think we are willing to keep these on this fiscal year's budget, but I think because there's not just the library, there's many other projects that were approved that are just kind of in limbo. And now, after about 5 years, the city's asking us, don't you want to review these projects and maybe we can move some of this money out of just sitting on the books and put it to something that we need right now.
Well,
So
I
that's
think
where
your
we're at.
idea of coming back in 3 months is very doable from our viewpoint, at least mine.
Well, I'm so hopeful, and I think we'll hear this on Tuesday, when you look at the list of people who are participating, that shows that they're very interested in about how our library goes forward in this community. We may have a clear message, and it might be clear for all of us what we've got to do. So I'm really hopeful that, it may not be 3 months, maybe it's 2 months you're coming back, and we have meetings and we have an idea. Yeah, thank you,
And
Bryce, for coming.
And
Can I ask
it'll be helpful to meet with Janie and understand what needs she has right now, and I don't want to ignore those.
I was just curious, when's the next public meeting, date and time for the Measure J?
February 21st,
At?
4 o'clock in this room.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so anytime, that you wish to make a request to Measure J, I guess you would let Jeannie know and then let David, through Jeannie, David Reddy know. I don't, because you are a city, you're a little different than, like a community project or whatever.
Right.
So we wouldn't want a trustee to just come and out of the blue, David Reddy not to know. So just keep everyone informed, and you're more than welcome to come to any of our meetings, and when we evaluate all the projects that come before us.
And is that the finance director that runs the meeting? Or hosts the meeting?
He's the city's official liaison, yes, to us, yeah, our staff person.
Okay.
Who is that?
It's now Nancy.
Well, it's Nancy, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Marcus is at all the meetings
Okay.
Yeah,
as
he's the-
well, and David Reddy is at 3/4 of them.
Right.
It's
So-
only when he has a conflict.
So is it the finance director's meeting, or is it the?
Well, it's the
assist-
commission's meeting.
Well, I didn't know how to say it exactly.
And the chair of the commission runs the meeting,
Yeah.
Right.
so.
But then your
and
city
but
liaison,
We have
though.
4 or 5 staff members that attend
But-
all of the meetings.
But Ariana works for.
Ariana works for Nancy.
Yeah, so that's the finance
So
director.
finance department.
Yeah, right.
They hold the
Right.
agendas and the packets.
Yes,
and
yes,
all of
yes.
that.
yes.
That-
Sorry.
But
I
the
didn't know how to ask it.
city engineers are always there because we're always talking about capital projects. And so without the city engineers there, we might have questions about, what do you mean by this crosswalk or this particular flashing light or whatever it is we're talking.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being
Thank
here.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we move on to approval of the library annual reports.
So we have a quorum, and in your packets, possibly, yes, you
Yes,
have
we do.
a draft copy of our annual report. We try to keep it simple. It includes statistics and some general highlights about what has happened throughout the year. And thank you to Julie Warren for writing most of it and arranging it and coordinating the statistics and all of that. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about it.
I would move approval of the annual report.
Did you get one?
I do have it in there.
Any comments or questions for Jeannie? Do I have a second then?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Another year.
Thank you. Then the next step is that we take it to city council for them to receive and file, and that should go probably February 20th, unless there's something that gets bumped from that. But our statistics, just so you all know, our statistics are reported to the California State Library. There are so many more that we report, a whole thing. And they gather all the statistics from every public library in the state of California and put them all together in one handy-dandy spreadsheet, and you can compare other jurisdictions to yours and export it into an Excel spreadsheet and sort, and it's fascinating because I was just doing that today, comparing us to our neighbor and to see how we compare, and we're pretty comparable.
Wellwood patio update.
Okay, so the Wellwood patio update, we have a city council subcommittee meeting on Monday, the 28th at 3 p.m. It is in the small conference room, and that will include Lisa Middleton and Christy Holstedge from city council, and then our city engineers, Francisco Jaime, and I believe everybody's going to be there. Stacy Schaefer from the facilities department is going to be there. Ed and Kathy are going to be there. And then I want to say Marcus and probably David Reddy will attend. And that's in order for us to discuss the costs, because the plans have gone to HSPB and they went to Architectural Advisory for advice, and then they came back to you all, the board, which you approved, and the issue is that the design costs that we got to do the design that has been approved by all of these committees is going to cost roughly $40,000 just to do the design, and obviously we know that you all have only approved $150,000 for this project, and we know the project estimates are going to come in at about $200,000. So, and I don't know if that includes the design. So we don't want to proceed with doing a design if the funds are not approved. So why waste your $40,000 doing a design if it's not going to be approved? So that's where we're at this point. We need to talk to city council because they don't really even know where we are on this project.
Jeannie, what would you use the patio for, having walked out there and looked at it? What use is the patio to the library?
Well, we have, number one, it needs to be ADA accessible. We are not, the ramp isn't accessible, and that's our ADA access. So that's number one, which the trustees have said they don't want to pay for that portion. They believe it's the city's responsibility. So that's one. Number two, we want that to be a space that we could use for events, gatherings, potential rentals, for receptions, meet and greets, story times, classical guitar events, whatnot, and a place for people to go out and just sit and use their phone, read their tablet, whatnot. But right now it is not conducive to anything except passing through, and so we've had some issues with the gravel that's out there. It's not, gravel is not a good medium for our facilities to do proper cleanups, and we have some issues with things being left behind that don't belong there, and it's really hard to clean and keep clean. Do you have any other comments? Did I cover everything?
So what do we expect from this meeting? I mean, if the money isn't there, what happens?
Well, we don't know that the money's not there. We need to ask or talk about it
Okay.
at that meeting and get direction from city council subcommittee
Okay.
as to what the next steps are.
But we know how much has been set aside from the trust fund for this,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So, and they know that.
They don't.
So we will tell them.
That's what we're going to talk
okay.
about.
All right.
And is this something you would ask Prop J for or not use those funds for?
It's possible that could become a transition of the funds into that.
Right.
We just need to talk about it at the meeting. We also have our we have a Wellwood operating budget. That's a potential source of funds.
And how much of the, I have a lot of Wellwood questions.
That's
It
okay.
looked like a very small portion of the library is actually used as a library. It's only the reading, the magazines, and the computers. And there's no bathroom for the public.
We have a bathroom in the building adjacent. Behind
Yeah,
it.
but it's dangerous. It's nothing I think people would want to use. So I just have a lot of questions about it in terms of dollars and usefulness without a bathroom.
Well, the one major factor is that when the family, the Murray family gifted the land, it was required to become and remain a library forever.
I understand that.
So it has to
but
be a library.
do we share the operating cost with the Historic Society
No.
and with the Visitor and Convention Center?
The visitor, we actually contract them to operate it. So we ask them to operate
And we
the
pay
service
for
desk.
it.
Uh-huh. Yes, we do. And then we have our virtual resources there. We have computers, we have Wi-Fi printing. We do have the newspapers and magazines. And then we have a book club and activity. We have programs there too.
You have an absolutely beautiful room, but without a bathroom, I'm worried about it.
It's operated okay for 4 years. So February will be our 4th anniversary. And so we've done okay with it.
Just for the record, the times that I've come over there and asked the contracted people who were there for access to a public bathroom, they said there is none.
That's not what they are supposed to
And
say.
that's what I was told today as well, that the bathroom is only for staff because it's not ADA accessible.
They should have offered you options for using the bathroom in the building behind or going to one of the city's public restrooms.
They did. But
Okay.
that doesn't
They do that
work
for me.
as an option.
But
if you're
that
there.
is the option, and that was
Yeah.
that was before my time. But they told us when they did the building renovation that there was just absolutely, if they had to do a public restroom, it would have taken out so much room in that building that it would have been.
They told me to go to Starbucks.
Starbucks.
Is it the public restroom?
Okay, that's not what they're supposed to say.
No, but
Starbucks
it's-
is not
it's
in the public
close-
restroom
But it's the
program.
closest.
No, just chilling.
No, it's just chilling, but they're
Just-
the closest clean restrooms.
No, the city has a public restroom program, and Just Chillin' Frozen Yogurt is in the public restroom program. And then we do have the restroom that you mentioned.
No, I understand.
So-
I'm just raising.
So Julie is their supervisor, so she will discuss that and what they are supposed to say. But, yes, I'm sorry, there is no restroom in that building for the public.
Yeah, it's.
It's tricky. I mean,
It-
it's unfortunate.
It's difficult with renovating this back and anticipating using it without that access. And that's the question I'm raising with it, so,
I can answer that. I do programs there monthly for the Wellwood during season. We've also had author book signings and events. We've done story times there, testing how they would be perceived downtown. We've also done book fairs and things like that in the last 4 years. And although it's not ideal, absolutely, I would love to have, more room and things like that. It has worked for the last 4 years using those options that Jeannie was saying, the city's program for public restrooms, and then the building behind us. We have the keys for those that people can get from the front desk and go use the restroom there. So
And
just so you
are
know
the air
history.
conditioners yours?
Yes.
Yeah, they're for the
The
building.
ones that are in
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
In the
the
patio.
cage?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is part of the plan, designed to better camouflage those, but still keep them secure.
And the trash didn't look like it was locked.
And that's not our area of management. That is for the restaurants and building next door. The alleyway, it's an easement for the Plaza Las Flores building.
That's owned by the,
Grit.
By Grit Development,
I believe so,
okay.
Grit Development.
I think getting some kind of agreement to lock that would also be important from Grit. I'm sorry, I know I'm just jumping
No.
in, but
No, it's
I'm
okay.
looking at
You-
it from the point of view of safety, and it just didn't look safe.
That's part of our patio project, is to build, to address the needs of gates and
But not on that alley.
access. Well, that was part of the plan, was to redo the gates back there too.
Are there drawings that got approved that we could see before the meeting?
I will, we could talk after this meeting, and I'll show you what I have and see if I have copies of something that you can take today.
But
So
it
I
has
do-
changed from what you have, or do you have the most current ones?
We don't have drawings of what we discussed because they want $40,000 to do new drawings. So I can talk after
But
this.
if we can, or at least have it at the meeting, so
Well, we
that,
don't have current drawings of what has been discussed, so.
But where we are at this point.
Right, but I can talk to you
I
after
read it
this.
in the minutes, but it's not totally clear, and I don't know what went to, what went to the Architectural Advisory Committee wasn't included
Yeah,
in the
no.
minutes.
And we never really received confirmation that the funding that we had set aside, even on the last set of drawings that we approved that are official, that budget would cover that as well. Had we? I don't think we had.
I was told that the estimate of what you had approved was about $200,000. So no, that's why we're having this meeting, because we know that your funds aren't gonna cover what everybody wants.
And who's the architect that you got the,
David Volz, VOLZ.
and was there a competition or a?
He's a city architect of record, one of the city's architects. That's already been approved as one that they can use on call. Was that all the questions?
So Kathy, you're coming in at a point, we're all at the same point, so understand, we've grappled with this for, well, even
5
David.
years.
And
How
David
long,
was on it,
David?
yeah.
5 years, because we were doing it during the
If you
renovation.
want, I'll give a background, but it's up to you.
Okay.
But basically, this is a problem because the money didn't get appropriated when the
Dave.
building got opened. because
Do you
it
want to
went
call him
over.
to a microphone, or?
Ah,
And it was supposed to be
David,
all done.
come to a microphone.
You have to speak up.
that's very helpful, thank
This,
you.
this
Okay.
project was supposed to be all done at that time, and it didn't happen, and the building needed to get open, and so HSPB gave a variance that it needed to come back, and it's just been languishing since. Unfortunately, the gravel was a stopgap measure because construction had worked back there and it was all muddy, so we couldn't open the building with mud. But the ADA situation, because it has to go between the Flores building where Ben & Jerry's is and the library, that is not compliant. It's on a slant going 2 different directions. So because this board didn't want to pay for that part of it, the city, said, okay, they held up $30,000 to do that sort of one little walkway, but then it still was taking them back. The other issue is that although this patio looks like it goes to the other building, that building has a variance of about 10 or 12 feet, even though the city wishes to, with this project, make it all compliant. So some of that old cement furniture, all those things that are there from Ben & Jerry's would be cleared out of there. And the bathroom issue is an issue that former city councilors made that decision that they could not afford to take square footage out of the building, and the only way that they could make the building actually work was to have the Historical Society kind of rent part of the building or lease part of the building or give them part of the building. I don't exactly know the formal agreements with the city on that. But basically the patio has sort of sat there and then money was appropriated. But, I guess I'm sure if money needs to be found, they're going to come to Measure J, and I can assure you that Measure J would approve that money faster than some other project for the Fry building or something else. People want to finish that project, and it's just sat there for so long, partly because the trustees wanted one thing, the library staff sort of wanted something, the HSPB didn't agree, you know, so it's a little complicated with a historical building.
How much control does HSPB have over the patio?
They have to approve it.
They have to approve it, or it has to go to council, and council overrides it,
That's
right?
correct.
So
Yes.
it's one or the other.
That's
true.
correct. Because
We got the plans.
because they have rights over a historic one property. It's a city-owned property.
I understand.
Because it's a city-owned property, they actually have more power than if it were just a private.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just trying to get a sense. I'm sorry, I know I'm brand
So-
new and
so,
I'm
I mean-
asking lots of
No,
questions,
it's
but
good, it's good.
It just didn't happen back in 2014, and we're now in 2018, and people want to finish it.
Yeah.
Well, you're
And
being
is
thrown at
Grit-
the fire, so I
is
think you have
Grit
to
going to
ask.
be at the meeting so that if there are things they need to do, they're going to
At
agree to
the-
them as well?
No, no. They're not, because we're really talking about money at this point. We're not really talking about the design, because we can't talk about the design anymore until we find more money. So we have to bring that awareness to city council and.
On Monday.
Yes,
Okay,
and we'll
Right.
get next steps on
Got
that
it.
one.
Right. All right, thank you. Strategic plan retreat date, invitees, I think there's a list being circulated of who has RSVP'd.
Yes, I brought one copy, please pass it around.
Thank you,
there-
staff, for working on this.
there
It's
were
been a lot of
some
work.
requests that Lisa made for additional Latino
Yes,
members,
uh-huh.
and they're not on that list.
They haven't confirmed yes or no, and we're still working on that. So those
But
are,
you did
they're on-
invite Alexis.
we are confirmed, yeah, we definitely will if we haven't, but they're not on the yes list yet. But their boss, Mike Thompson, is he's on our steering committee, and so we have to also make sure that there's coverage.
But not all of the people were with the center.
Okay,
There were a couple of other addresses I sent you
Mm-hmm.
of people who weren't with the center,
okay.
who were more prominent in the Latino community.
Yes, we are working on all of that. Yeah, we thought that,
It's just that we don't have all the RSVPs yet, but if I'm remembering those names, those did go out to them. But they have not yet RSVP'd yes or no. But I'm pretty sure that was the electronic ones that were sent in.
yeah, we are definitely making sure that that's happening, so.
There's also people like from the school district. Oh, I got an email today from a representative from the school district that said, she copied me on it, reminding them to RSVP to us because they were telling her they're coming, but they haven't told us they're coming. So they're not on the list yet, but they're supposedly coming. So
Yeah.
it's definitely
We're still
gonna
working
be-
on this,
Yeah.
yes.
This is just the ones who have said yes.
Yes, so we're up to 75 people, which is a record for our consultants on attendance for strategic planning. So
When will the agenda be finalized?
it was finalized yesterday,
What I thought.
and we had our phone conference with them. So our strategic planning date is on Tuesday, January 29th. It's from 9 to 3:30. And we are providing lunch. It will be at the Palm Springs Convention Center in the smoke tree rooms, which are on the east side of the building. Parking is free, and,
And you have a professional somebody professionally coordinating it.
Yes.
yes, the the consultants are from a firm called Library Strategies, and they are formed historically from the St. Paul, Minnesota, Friends of the Library. They were so good at doing their own fundraising and strategic planning that other people reached out to them and they said, you know what, we could start an organization and support our friends. So it's interesting because they're a nonprofit and their proceeds go back to their Friends of the Library, and they know libraries.
And they were one of three firms that 4 that we
reviewed
we
4.
reviewed. And they are very well known in libraries for not only just this, but also library fundraising, which
Fundraising.
is also.
Capital campaigns.
And so they would be helpful
They'll be
on,
very helpful.
Thank you.
on
Yes.
capital campaigns.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions about that?
No, just come, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna do, general sessions like a general all group in the morning. I'll do there's a couple of presentations, and then, have lunch, and then we'll do breakout sessions based off our morning, decisions on 3 top, three top things we wanna focus on.
The
And then
the
you go into
consultants
what you're interested in.
actually wanted this body to do a welcome as part of the process because the strategic plan was funded by the trust fund, and we are the ones who've been pushing for this in anticipation of the next phase of our history. So Harry and I, because you guys had not been named
That
yet,
sounds perfect.
Harry and I are going to, but I will recognize you guys, please, so you can stand up and say, and it's going to be a very short and sweet welcome, and this is why we're here, and this is why we're looking forward. So they ask us to do that. So Harry and I will represent you guys, but you can join us up front if you'd like as well.
And please come at 8:30. We're going to start promptly at 9
Yes,
with the
thank you.
meeting, so 8:30 for just kind of orientation and just getting
Getting
settled,
settled.
getting some coffee.
Our next item is request for boards and commissions dark in August.
Okay, so
We've been dragging this
there
along.
has been a general request from the city council that and you usually are dark in August. So this is just a formality that the city council is dark in August, and they have requested that all of their commissions be dark in August. So here I am, asking you to be dark in August.
So are we supposed to vote on this?
I think so.
I move that we be dark in August.
Any seconds?
Second,
All in favor?
yes.
Aye.
We always are anyway.
All right, I'm gonna say Kathy was second on that one. Is that what you got, Lisa? Or, no?
It took me 5 years to get that through for planning commission.
Really? Oh, no, we-
Okay.
Our-
Staff resisted it.
So hold on, guys, we're moving along to our next legislative action, and that's the last one, is set a report date for Library Foundation Annual Report. I mean, Harry, you can correct me, but since we've had our first meeting in a long time, waiting in anticipation of Tuesday, I would say we would plan on having a report in a couple of months. Is
Yeah,
that fair
I would
enough?
think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Do you wanna do it at March, or do you wanna do April?
I think we should do April,
Okay.
just to be safe.
Do you
And
need a
maybe we can get our
motion?
new president here. to
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
Do you wanna, is that a motion or just do you have to make a
Do we
motion
need
on that?
I think we're setting it for them, right? So we're
Okay.
saying that the foundation needs to be, have their report into us by the
Okay.
April meeting. So you'll
Okay.
include that on the agenda as an agenda item for review
Okay.
and approval.
Okay.
So committee reports, we should probably go through this pretty quickly because we've been beating some of these to death already. So the advocacy committee, have they met?
No.
Is there
It was
anything?
Ron and Ashley.
Yeah. They did a great job. Thank you, wherever
Good
you
job.
may be.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, on the budget committee, since I'm the one remaining on that, I think that you are saying that the budget is here, it's time for us to start working on this again. So the
Yes.
budget committee, you
Our
will call
budget
up.
should be flat this year for the library operating budget. We shouldn't have any new things unless, which I don't anticipate any sky falling.
Okay. So in
unless
keeping
Lewis
with
falls on
last
it.
year, when you're ready, when you have your budget ready, you'll call the budget committee to come and
Yes.
meet with you,
Yeah.
review it,
Mm-hmm.
identify for them where you need us to, if you need us to
Mm-hmm.
speak up. There's any possibility that even if you ask for a flat, will they try to decrease, those kinds of things, so we're kind of ready
Yeah.
for that. So
Don't-
that's what will happen.
Sometime in the next month,
Why
We sh-
wouldn't you do any salary increases? Is
Oh.
nothing scheduled, so?
I'm
you
not
have a-
in charge of the salaries. The salaries are separately handled through finance,
Okay.
and those are already determined through the MOUs and the
Okay.
bargaining agreements. So
This is just your cost.
just the general
And-
operating.
And is this
Yes.
sort of, this is now, what
No,
I
that's a good
didn't offer
question.
to do, is this where literacy comes in? That if we had a subcommittee working on literacy and you needed to bring someone in to work on literacy programs, it would be a budget item and a budget request?
Yes. Yeah.
So
And we'll
that,
see if our strategic plan pulls that out
that's, because
as a priority.
that's really interesting and important stuff if we can, it's too late to get to it for right now, but it seems to me
Okay.
something we should be thinking about.
Well, that's a good point, though. If on Tuesday, members of the community are insistent that we add a program around advocacy or whatever that other program might be, it's customary, I mean, you have gone through a couple of rounds to get something approved, right? So would we have time to quickly put something into the budget for that first round, like advocacy, or, I don't know.
Or hiring a person to do a
Literacy, excuse me, I'm sorry,
program.
literacy. Yeah.
Well, I can always ask. I always ask. But it took almost 6 years for me to get a part-time librarian, asking every year. I mean, I've asked for a literacy librarian, outreach librarian, social services librarian. Finally,
We
I
should
just
be
said
asking, we should,
librarian.
I mean,
And I got a librarian.
part of dealing with budgets is to make sure that you have some asks.
Oh,
So I think
Oh, yeah, I
we
do.
should have some asks.
I do. But yes, so.
If you were looking at what your asks are, what would you say the thing you would most like to see, that you would like to add?
Well, right now, I'm really concerned about the J.C. Fry building, because it's, we had a water issue and we had demolition in there, and so that building, there's a lot that can be done with that, and it's not, I don't feel like it's a huge expense, but it could be, who knows, it could be $1 million. But, compared to a $20 million library, it's a small project. So, that could help us do different things in different ways for that.
And you wouldn't ask for that part-time position you had last year to become full-time or upgrade any positions?
It's actually, the schedule is helpful to us to have a part-time librarian,
Okay.
because the person isn't limited in only working 4 10-hour shifts. I can have the person work 2 5-hour shifts, and then separately 2 5-hour shifts.
So the question is, would another part-time librarian be helpful to you? That's really what I'm getting at, is to go
Right.
into a budget with no asks
Oh,
of the city
I'll
council.
think of something. I always do. I've got some ideas.
And I think that Tuesday you may have
I'd
some.
like to bring back passports, but I need a staff member to do that. We used to do passport issuing at the library, and it brought in some revenue for the library. Back in the day, it brought in like $75,000 a year in revenue to the city for in fees that the city got to keep.
So,
So
I
there's
think
a
that-
potential income source right there.
And I think on Tuesday, we keep our ears open, and there might be some crazy things that come out of that. I don't mean crazy, but I mean, there could, when I say
Outside
crazy.
the box.
Outside the box, excuse me, I didn't
Did you
mean to say
say
that.
exciting?
I'm so sorry.
Exciting things.
There could be some things that we've just never thought of that we might want to
Right.
say, hey, this makes sense.
Right.
And we need to start raising that flag to the city that these are programs coming or requests coming from our community, right?
Yeah, definitely. So,
Yeah.
I never go in saying, I don't need anything,
I hope not.
but I get told no a lot.
Well, no, but being told no is okay. It's advocacy and asking, because I think we have real things
I'm very creative.
that we don't have. I
Yeah.
know I'm running on, but
No.
I was also thinking, Measure J, if there could be somebody who improved the meeting room that you have at the library. When I looked at Wellwood, their meeting room is gorgeous, and your meeting room
Was on a
needs-
budget.
was on a budget. So looking at this is me, but looking at something like that for an immediate improvement with some of the Prop J money that's there, it seems to me like it would really, really add to the library.
And
I'll
I'm
take what you're
really, I'm really fortunate to have our friends at the library too. They really help us out on smaller projects like that. And
That's not a small project, though, to have an interior designer come in,
Yeah.
make it look beautiful, add equipment to it, and make it a space that people want to go into.
yeah. Okay.
Buildings Committee, that was who?
Harry and Kathy.
No report?
Oh, yeah.
Policies and
Basically, no.
bylaws, there's no report on that, since we've had a report on that from you already. Literacy,
No report.
no report. Well, I mean, we've talked about strategic planning all day, so I think that, you know, I'm so hopeful that this is here finally. And I know that the staff has worked really hard to get us this far, and I think this is gonna be so worth it at the end for us to actually achieve the things that you guys want to see happen.
I should add that next steps would be that the consultants would create some action items for us and then report back to the board and the
Oh,
staff.
good.
So
Well, I
this
think that-
isn't just the end of it on Tuesday. There are a few more months of work to do after that.
In some way, I think you guys should take notice that this many people in this community are coming to spend the day because they really feel that you're worth it. And this department needs some attention. So I think that's because you guys have been working really hard, you know, to bring it to people's attention, so
Thank
I'm
you.
hopeful, yeah. We talked about Wellwood. Are there any other questions about Wellwood? Okay, staff representatives, reports.
Forgot all about that. Okay, let's see. So, I'd like to tell you about different activities and events that are happening at the library. So our next item is on, it's funny, after we do our strategic planning, then we're going to have Drag Queen Story Hour.
On Tuesday?
On Tuesday, January 29th at 6 p.m., featuring Bella DeBall.
He'll be at the meeting, won't he? The planning meeting?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And we are doing Drag Queen Story Hour every other month. It's been so successful, so supportive in our community. We probably have 3 times the attendees as our regular story hour. And we have had an inquiry from NBC Nightly News, and they want to include us in a story that they're working on for March. So the March Drag Queen Story Hour will be March 5th, which is Mardi Gras, which will be fun. And so we're very excited about that, the fact that we're going to get some national news coverage on that. We have a big author coming next week at the library, free of charge. Author Melanie Benjamin will be here. She is the author of The Aviator's Wife, The Swans of Fifth Avenue, and her newest book is called The Girls in the Picture, and it's a fictionalization about Mary Pickford. So that should be fun with local interest because Mary Pickford, you know, Mary Pickford Theater and her local ties here. Anything you want to add about her, Melanie Benjamin? Great author. She's been at other community events in the Valley. I can't remember what she was at. Was she at Rancho Mirage Writers Festival or
The Desert Literary Society, but they changed their name.
Literary Society?
Literary Society.
LSD. Literary Society of the Desert had her as a guest speaker one time because you got to see her,
Yeah,
right?
she was-
Yeah. Palm Springs Speaks. We've had 2 really wonderful events this month. We were so grateful to Emilio Estevez, who partnered with us and the film festival to come for the Palm Springs International Film Festival. He brought his film, The Public, which is set in a library. It's a feature film. And we did that event on January 5th during the film festival. The film got a standing ovation. The film did. And then it was voted to be included in the Best of the Fest. And he did a Q&A afterwards. He introduced the film. He sat and watched the film with us. He did the Q&A, and then we had a lovely reception at the library. The library was beautiful. So if you are looking for a venue, we have a rental opportunity for you because the library is a beautiful evening facility. Everything gets pushed out of the middle of the room. It's a great space. Nice. We added some really great lighting. It was so much fun. And then on this past Saturday, Janet Mock came, and we had her event at the Camelot Theaters. We had about 288 people attend, so it was a good event. It was moderated by Lisa Middleton from City Council, and then we had guest moderators come up and do a whole discussion. I can't think of everybody's name right now.
The center,
Someone-
sanctuary, and desert aids.
Okay, so we have representatives from the center, someone from the from Sanctuary Palm Springs, and then Desert AIDS Project. And just a wonderful event. She did a great job, and everybody, all the moderators did a great job. It was a nice event.
Very
and,
nice.
And the attendees really enjoyed it. Now next month we have Jane Fonda coming, and her event is sold out.
Very good. Very
So
good.
we are
VIP, everything sold out.
everything.
Very good.
So that's great, and
Do
that
you make
is-
the money on that?
We'll make a little money. The Friends, it's the Friends of the Library and the Palm Springs Cultural Center who've partnered together. Just like the Friends of the Library partner with with Modernism Week to produce events as a fundraiser. So we'll make a little bit of money on that one. And then we also have, and that event is February 16th at 7:30. The VIP reception starts at 6. And then in March, we have Rick Steves, the European travel guru, who was on PBS and everywhere. And we've sold 355 tickets so far for him. And I'm very happy about that. We haven't even really advertised him. But his event is on a Sunday afternoon. So March 3rd at 3:30 p.m., the VIP reception meet and greet for him is at 2 o'clock. And that, Jane Fonda and Rick Steves will be at the Palm Springs High School at the Richard Center for the Arts. And that is all. We still have student openings for Career Online High School. So our Friends of the Library and the California State Library sponsored this program for adult learners to get their high school diploma. It's a fully online accredited high school program. So you wouldn't get your GED, you would get an actual high school diploma. And something I learned from College of the Desert is that any of our recent graduates can instantly go right into College of the Desert and get their first year free of school. And so high school students, GED graduates, and online high school graduates, even though they're adults, if they transition directly into their program, they can at least get their first year free. I'm almost thinking they said 2 years, but I'm not sure about that. So that's a really wonderful thing. We do have openings for that. You just go online, palmspringslibrary.org, and look for our high school diploma program. So
Thank you.
I think that's it.
And trustee comments, I would just like to start off by saying, again, welcoming David and Kathy. We're so glad you're here, and I know how passionate you are about libraries. I think you'll find this to be a really great opportunity to serve our community, so we really are glad you're here. But I also want to go on record, I apologize for missing the last meeting, but I would like to go on record for thanking both Ron Willison and Ashley Dunphy for their service. They both worked very hard on this board, and I'm sorry I wasn't here to be a part of that. I did see Ron the next day and I bumped into him at a restaurant, so I apologize. But both of them worked very hard for this organization, and will be missed. So I want to go on record for that. Any other comments from any of the trustees?
I know, David, you mentioned a couple scheduling issues.
Yes, so
Use your mic.
I don't know what, thank you. I don't know what the protocol is for this, but I have a prior engagement that's going to happen at the end of April. And I was wondering whether or not it might be possible to move the April meeting up a week. I believe that would be the 18th.
So we would have to be at the library. We couldn't be here because it's our only slots. We'd have to move to the library if we did that. So checking on that room.
But you have a computer class.
We have a computer class in the morning.
Oh, okay.
DIY. We have DIY every day, but that's in the youth room.
It's
We
spring
have
break.
It's spring break. We have Family Fun Fest the day before. I don't.
We could do the Wellwood if we
It's
have to.
possible.
Well,
Yeah.
If the main library's available, we prefer to do it there because parking's easier and
Yeah.
we don't have to drive.
But
Walk
either
down
there
the
or the
hall.
Wellwood, I mean, I'm okay with that date. I mean, it's the day before Good Friday and Passover, but that's,
The day after.
yeah, so
The day before is the Family Fun Fest that we have at the Palm Springs High School Stadium that we
Okay.
do every year. And then, yes, Friday after is Good Friday, but that Thursday isn't.
Are we supposed to be televised?
You don't have to be televised, you just like to be televised, because it's good for the community, but there are times, in November and December, we usually aren't televised because we can't, because the fourth Thursday every November is Thanksgiving, so we always end up moving usually to the third, which is a conflict with Measure J, so we end up moving our meeting, so
It's up to
it
you
happens.
so are we okay with the 18th? Do we need to say that we'll move to the 18th and staff will find a location for us and include that in the
You
next
could if you're,
announcement?
yeah, if you want.
I'm okay with that, or does anyone else have any conflicts?
I don't know yet. I just got off planning commission and we're planning to go someplace away for a month, but I'm not sure when.
Okay, will you let us know then?
Yep.
And if by then we have our missing member, then if Kathy can't make it, we would still have a quorum, right? So that's the
Yeah.
critical, we have to have a quorum to
You-
meet, so.
Yeah, and the other.
it's just, it's a ways down the way, but we could, it's good
Thank
to
you for
talk
giving us
about
a
it
heads
now.
up.
Yeah, well, I also want to give a heads up on May as well, but I'm not committed to it at this point. But it just happens to be that the meeting is meeting on the weekend of my 35th reunion from Yale.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep that kind of like in abeyance at the time being, because I know we're kind of working with,
Well, NUSA is the week before.
Yeah, I couldn't
So
do the
you
week
couldn't do
before.
it on May 16th.
yeah.
But the 30th, there are 5 weeks in May, so you could also move it to the 30th.
Do the
if you
23rd or
wanted
the
to.
30th.
That could be a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I would be back by then.
Keep us posted on that one.
Okay.
The next time we meet, we can talk
So,
about that.
so just for scheduling purposes, for sure, we're gonna move to April 18th for April, and May is still to be
She's gonna
determined.
check the calendar for April.
But we
Oh,
don't know.
Kathy-
Confirmed yet.
Kathy was gonna check her schedule.
Until the next
Oh,
meeting.
April like is fine. I just, there'll be some point where I will miss a meeting,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's all I was saying.
Oh, okay.
Is that we haven't taken any vacations because of planning commission the last.
Couple of years.
So let's say, go ahead and see if you've got the space, report to us next month, and we can have a firm up on that,
Okay.
on that change.
Okay.
And hopefully by then we'll know who our new member will be. You know, it's just, I'm more concerned about keeping a quorum, so if we do move, we
right.
can do business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, especially the next couple of meetings after the strategic plan. I think, I'm gonna expect the strategic plan would be presented back to us. Didn't she say maybe it would be April?
It could be March or April, I think she said.
Yeah, so they'll be in here presenting that plan to us, so we want to definitely keep that date or keep that meeting that month, because we may have action items that we need to move on, right?
Right, then if it was, well, it would, yeah, I was just gonna say about televised, if we, maybe they would wanna meet, maybe they would wanna present in May, if we could be televised, meet in here on the 30th and then be televised, maybe they would wanna do that, but
Well, we
we
should
might not wanna
investigate that.
delay too long. We'll find out we'll know more
Okay.
as it goes, but
Anything else?
do others have comments?
That's what I,
Sorry.
Harry? David, anything? Kathy?
Nope.
All right. So shall we adjourn this meeting at 4:45?
I so move.
All in favor? All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.